This is Charm's Canadian Love Map, the show that uncovers incredible Canadian love stories.
Tell people you love them. If we all amplify the love that we have, we can really change the world around them.
I love love.
Hi, I'm Nancy Regan, your host. And thanks to Charm Diamond Centers, we've spent nearly 10 seasons sharing the stories that shape us. This season, we're digging even deeper, chasing the spark behind every connection. The unexpected reunions, the little moments, and the bold leaps of faith.
In order to have world peace, or even a thought of it, we all have to work together.
And I had to go catch my flight. Mirriam was on a bus back to Nairobi to go back to Zambia. And we'd been having people in the street help us, figure out which bus Mirriam should get on and everything. And I was kind of standing there and, alone and looking around, not knowing what was going on. And the taxi driver that I had was going to take me to the airport. "Don't worry, sir, your wife, she's going to be fine. She's going to be fine."
Yeah.
And I looked at him and I said, "She's not my wife." And he said, "Not your wife. She should be. She should be." And it was just, again, this moment of like, what would that life be like?
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Canadian Love Map. I'm here with Madison, and we are really getting into a fabulous love story today.
It feels so back to our roots. You know what I mean? Like, we got a good love story up, and it's awesome.
In fact, the couple involved have written a book called The Illogical Adventure, a memoir of love and fate. How's that for suspense?
That is like Canadian Love Map 101. Like, that's exactly what we're looking for.
It's an international love story that could so easily not have happened because they were, as I say in the conversation, like two ships that pass in the night.
Yep.
And then headed off in their different directions to different continents. And yet now they're living a family life.
Yes.
How did that happen?
We're going to get into it.
Exactly.
I don't even want to say anything. I do want to say, though, Mirriam?
Yep.
Mirriam had this quote that she said she dated herself for a while. And I'll leave that there. I don't want to spoil too much about it, but they both were just such amazing individuals. But together, they were like explosive.
It's a great story.
So good.
Yeah. Okay. Stay tuned. James and Mirriam, welcome to the Canadian Love Map.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
I am really intrigued and inspired by your love story and am really kind of excited about digging into it with you. Do you ever get sick of telling people about it?
Well, we did write a book about it that we're trying to publish, as we'll talk about a little bit. So I guess if we are, it's blame's on us. But no, it's fun to be out, and sharing the story and doing those sorts of things. So we appreciate the opportunity to be here today.
I'd like to travel back in time, if we could, and have you both tell me a little bit about where you're from and what your childhood was like. Mirriam, I'm starting with you.
Okay. Yes, I'm Mirriam, and I am from Zambia. I was originally born in Livingston, where the Victoria Falls is. And I actually ended up growing up on a little farm in a small village called Batoka. My dad was chief of education in Livingston, and my mom was an assistant nurse. I come from a family of 8. I am number 7 in the family. So my dad retired early in Livingston, where he was working, and moved to this little farm where I grew up on Batoka.
Well, it sounds like it might have been an idyllic childhood living on a farm, but then maybe it was a lot of work. Which do you remember more?
I have a lot of great memories on the farm, some that I don't like, but most of it was simple life. It was so beautiful. I just remember just growing up with my parents, just being in love. It was really amazing to be on the farm because I learned how to work. I learned how to do a lot of things.
What was your parents' partnership like? Just the way you said they were in love really makes me want to dive in just for a second into their relationship.
it was teamwork, it was partnership. And now that I look back, there was a lot of love there. I remember a lot of stories that Dad said about Mom, and Mom stories about Dad, and challenges that they came over together, that were signs and examples of love, and just how they loved us and on the farm. So just now I appreciate them even more.
Oh, that's really beautiful. James, how do you match that?
Yeah, well, I'm a maritimer. I was born in Sydney and grew up mostly in Moncton, New Brunswick. I went away to I guess for childhood, similar story of having parents who were very much in love. I was the oldest of 3 kids, and my grandparents as well. We used to go down to Mushmush Lake in Nova Scotia, where they were, and I have fond memories of my grandparents. I used to have to sleep out in the living room of the cottage because of allergies. So sometimes I would be lying there awake, and my grandmother would always be the first one out to cook breakfast, and then my grandfather would be up first, and I'd be pretending to be asleep, and I'd overhear a little of their lovey-dovey chat in the in the morning just before everyone else was waking up and things. So
What a sweet memory.
yeah, it was great. So yeah, and I had a wonderful time. And growing up in Moncton, went off to Queen's University in Kingston because I thought, the world is big. I want to get out there and see it, but ended up finding, Ontario is okay, but Maritime's a pretty good place to be. So I returned to Halifax for law school, and I've, other than all my travels, basically been living here for the past 20-some years.
Mm-hmm. And all my travels is the phrase I want to jump into next, because I gather that even though you had very different backgrounds in terms of where you lived and how you lived, you both developed a real passion for travel. Can you tell me how that happened for you, Mirriam?
For me, with my family, we didn't travel as much. I'm told that I was always a very different child. There were different terms, different names, weird, strange, different from everybody, but in a positive way. So I started with traveling within Zambia to visit my siblings that were living in the city. Like I mentioned, I was number 7, so I was with my parents. So my siblings were already established in cities. Most of them, they work for the government. So they are living in cities. So when we had holidays, when we closed schools, I wanted to travel to go visit them.
And they were happy to have their baby sister come and stay?
Yes. And that's when I got to see a few different things in the cities. And I thought, wow, I was right. There's something out there. There's more out there. I want to see more. I want to learn more. So I got the interest of reading books, and slowly I was getting exposure and seeing travel shows and watching TV travel shows and magazines. And I was just getting exposed to more things. And I thought, well, I'd like to learn more about this and explore on this one.
James, how did your love of travel develop?
Later in life, actually, I mean, later than Mirriam, I didn't do much traveling, but in my 3rd year of undergrad, I got to do an exchange in Scotland. So I was about 20 years old, and that really, was right around the time of, you could use a credit card to buy like the cheap airline ticket. So easily from Scotland, you could say, oh, let's go to Madrid or let's go to Amsterdam very quickly, and had a university group of people who were, eager to do that, and all over, seas from, have an exchange community. So, and the backpacking, culture to be able to, do all the museums and sites and everything during the day and feel like you've earned going out to the pub at night to meet people from everywhere. So when I got back to my 4th year, I thought I've got to figure out a way to make sure that I can keep going to all the new different, continents and cities and all of that to keep this going for as long as I want. And I remember after even starting work, I would continue to try to fit travel in and prioritize it in between the hearings and other things I would do as a lawyer. And at one point I wondered, like, why am I continuing to do this and other people are settling down or just starting a family? And at one point I just had this light bulb moment of, why do you have to understand why, why you love it? Just continue to enjoy it for as long as you do. And even today we still do a lot of travel together.
But that's an interesting moment as an individual where you realize, oh, I'm feeling the pressure of the expectations or judgments of others instead of just conducting my life according to what I want and my purpose.
Yeah, you get a lot of freedom once you realize that you don't have to worry about those external pressures, and that you can live the life that you want to live, and then see what happens.
So how did your travels eventually intersect?
Well, I always have to tell the story of how I met Mirriam. It starts with I took a tall ship sailing cruise from the south of Argentina to Antarctica and then across to the southern Atlantic to Cape Town.
Wow.
And people
Wait,
usually say, stop right there.
Okay, it was like, I don't know when the last time that happened was, but it's like my listening just came to a screeching halt because I was trying to absorb what you just said. Will you repeat that journey for me?
Yeah, so there's the Picton Castle is a famous ship in Lunenburg, and so I had seen that many times, and I always dreamed, what would it be like to get on that kind of a boat? And I looked into it as I was trying to think, approaching 40, what am I going to do with my professional life, other things. And I found this Bark Europa, which is based out of Amsterdam or in the Netherlands. And they do tall ship sailing all around the world, but they have one, trip where they do a few trips to Antarctica, and you see the beautiful tall ship with the penguins and the icebergs and everything. And then they do across to Cape Town as they work their way back up for the summer, the North American summer or the Northern Hemisphere summer up the coast of Africa. So I thought that is the trip that I want to do. And so I rearranged my schedule, figured out how to take a couple of months off and did that. And then so I arrived in Cape Town, and I had planned to stay a week in Cape Town. And on the final night that I was there, I happened to be in a bar watching an Arsenal football match, and everything was going well. It was going toward, kind of a stalemate draw, and Manchester United scored against my beloved Arsenal team in the last minute, and it left me in this really sour mood. So I stuck around. I was drinking with another couple of guys, and over in the corner was this beautiful, sophisticated, woman by herself looking out of place. And I thought, it's my last night here. I really should go over, what do I, and, humming and hawing. But
I'm going to interject and say that for those who aren't seeing this and are only listening, what he saw was Mirriam with the dancing eyes and one of the most beautiful, engaging smiles you've ever seen. So, and she is smiling that smile right now. What do you remember of that moment?
James is exactly right. That's how we met. So prior to that, I had left Zambia. It was quite a journey anyway. We skipped some scenes, but I had left my journey to leave Zambia as well to go to South Africa, because I had lived in South Africa in Johannesburg to study for quite some time. So I studied at the college there, and then at some point I decided to move to Cape Town to work. So I worked to different companies there, and I lived there. So the time that I was there in Cape Town, when I lived there, I took this journey of self-care, discovering Mirriam and finding out who Mirriam was. So I didn't want to date. I didn't date for a good 2 years. I dedicated it to exercising, eating healthy, spoiling myself to nice restaurants. So I worked for a 5-star Cove Collection. It's a company that owns boutiques and 5-star hotels. So I was working with celebrities and VIPs and all of that. So I made quite a little bit of money, and I had a little fancy apartment by the water. I just wanted to discover myself and just be me. So I went hiking, biking. I did all the nice things. I went to nice restaurants. I went to 5-star movies. I did it all, and I loved it. Yoga. I did so much, and at that time I was also kind of grieving. My dad had passed in 2013, so I was in that process. I just wanted to just discover myself and finding, just getting to spend time with Mirriam.
You were dating Mirriam.
I was dating Mirriam.
Beautiful.
And I loved it, and I was in such a really good space. I really loved where I was. I was so content, and I had applied for a job to work in Europe, and I got it. I was going to work for a cruise ship in Europe, in Italy. And I had, the day that I met James, they had a farewell party at my workplace. It was my last day. It was so beautiful. So I was nicely dressed. I had this beautiful floral dress. It was summer. I was just looking really, really good, and I was feeling really good. And I had a driver that used to pick me up to take me home. I was very particular with the timing. I always wanted to be home in the evening straight from work, unless if I had plans with friends, and I only went to really nice places and far away from my workplaces. So the waterfront in Victoria, in the waterfront where James was, where we met, it was very close to one of the restaurants where I worked, the area. So I would never go to the pub or the sports place because I used to watch Arsenal as well. My brothers were Arsenal supporters. So I have no idea why that particular day when I called my driver said, I'm late, I picked up some tourists, and we ended up taking longer. And I looked around, it's a beautiful day. I just had a beautiful farewell party. What am I going to do? I didn't want to take somebody else. And I thought, you know what? I have no idea. Out of all the places that were nearby, I thought, Arsenal is playing today. I don't know how they did. I walked into the Irish pub. I never went there. I have no idea. I changed my shoes and then I walked into there. I was like, I'm just going to hide in the little corner and wait for my driver. And I sat there in the corner quietly and I just wanted peace and quiet. And there was this tourist wearing Arsenal shirt. That's one thing that I noticed first. And the second thing was his hideous beard that he had.
Hideous.
I hadn't shaved on the whole, like from Christmas Eve through to April and May, because I knew I was going to be on the tall ship and this was going to be. So I really was looking, caveman-esque.
It was your wild man look.
So,
He was pacing around like back and forth, and I noticed, and I had no idea at first. I did not, pay attention to it, and then he excused himself at some point. I had no idea. He only confessed later on why he was back and forth. Yes. And he...
So did he come over to you?
Yes. Finally, eventually he came and excused himself. Excuse me, may I sit down for a moment? And I said, yes. I took a chance. I thought about it. I thought, well, he's just a tourist, probably harmless. It's my last day and I never do. Just be kind to the tourists. That's what I thought.
To the man with the wild beard.
Yes.
But nice eyes. Okay, James, what do you remember of?
Yeah. And then while I was, and Mirriam also likes to tell the story about, feeling sorry for me because she could see that, knowing the locals much better than I would have, she could see the people I was drinking with were probably, not the best group of people to continue your night on into the later evening, and thought, maybe I'll save this guy. So when one of them, or there's one guy in particular I was kind of with, when he went to the bathroom after we had chatted a bit, and I guess she saw I wasn't anyone to be afraid of, she and the taxi driver had arrived. She said, why don't we go, somewhere, or I'm not sure if I said, or you said, we can go to a different place to get away from this guy and continue the night.
Actually, I had noticed the gentleman that James was with. He kept bothering him. Like James was trying and talk to me. He was, pacing in front of me, but the gentleman kept following. I did not know what was really going on, but I could tell something dodgy, because when we work in those environments, we are given tips and we're trained to watch out. So it's common in tourist areas like that where people go to pick like wallets and to steal from the tourists, or to ask for drinks, or like if somebody is a little bit dodgy, so you kind of help the visitors and the tourists. So I noticed that something was going on there. Right. So that's the other thing that made me wanted to help James, because I wanted to know what was going on, because the gentleman looked a little bit dodgy.
This podcast is made possible by the support of Charm Diamond Centers. As a proudly Canadian-owned company, they care deeply about shining a light on love. Were there any sparks flying through the air?
Not that first day when we met. First thing when he sat down, we started chatting, I thought, wow, never judge a book by its cover, because he sounded smart right away and very interesting. And I was curious and I was interested. That's why I let him sit down and tell me more of the stories. And we had so much in common about the travel, and also we talked a little bit about Arsenal. I told him about my brothers trying to win me over, because I have the other side, one brother that is in Manchester, and the rest of them are Arsenal. So we, yes. And my driver later on showed up, sent me a message that they were waiting for me. So I mentioned to James that I was going to go, but and he asked if he could come with me. And I thought, well, okay, there's a safe place close to my home where my apartment is, where we could go a theater where was, different, where we could continue the conversation and such. And
How did the rest of the evening go?
Yeah, well, I think that's when the sparks really, I was fortunate that, she had low expectations at the beginning. So after I started, and I was able to surprise her with similar, to your reaction when where I had just been and what I had done. And I had all of the, videos of penguins and other things on my phone right with me to show and prove. And so, Mirriam was right in this space of thinking about, her going off to Europe for the first time. And I had spent a lot of time in Europe. So I had a lot of, kind of stories and excitement to offer to her about what she was going to see and what the culture and the backpacker and travel, would be like for her there. And I remember thinking, on the flight going home and afterwards, I wonder if I'll ever see this person again. I'm going back to Canada, back to my job, even though like the main point of the sailing trip was to figure out the future. Of course, I didn't come up with any easy answers and I didn't know where I was going. And Mirriam would be working on a cruise ship in Europe, which is far away. So, it's not going to be easy to just bump into each other. So,
You weren't going to turn a corner someday and just see them there.
No, a lot of planning would need to be undertaken.
Actually, what James did when he got to London, because he had a layover in London, when he went to a barber, he sent me a picture of him like all cleaned up. And I was like, oh, he's actually kind of cute. That's changed the whole...
Look, I'm not the wild tourist man you thought I was.
Right.
Yeah.
But there was this possibility that you had really just been two ships that passed in the night and you might never see one another again. What changed?
Well, so that was in May, I think, when I got back, beginning of May, and Mirriam started on the cruise ship. As a traveler, I thought, I do love, I'd never been to Venice. I hadn't been to certain parts of where the cruise ship was going. So I thought, maybe there's a chance to meet up when she has a break. I'll keep that in the back of my mind, but that's probably not until a few months down the road. We stayed in touch with WhatsApp, sharing pictures and video message or, just audio, but more in a way of just staying in touch, not like we know this is the relationship for us, right? Just kind of, seeing, how the person's doing, checking in every now and then. And then as it got, the time passed, thinking, Mirriam was working very hard. She was looking for a break. I had an opportunity to go, on a trip. And I thought, well, I'm going to London to see my friends there, see an Arsenal game. Maybe I should add on a little, I won't tell anyone because I don't really know what's going on here, but can go to Venice for the weekend when Mirriam is on her break from her work schedule, and we can see if we can rekindle the spark. And Venice, would seem to be a pretty good place for a first date.
You would think so. Oh my goodness. Had you already really gotten an idea, both of you, that there was a compatibility that was kind of drawing you in?
I couldn't stop thinking about our conversation. It was really nice. It was nice to talk to him. I kind of, liked him, not in a way of liking him as someone that I'm going to see or as a boyfriend. Because in my mind, remember, before I left for Europe, I thought, okay, I dated myself. Now I know myself. I'm happy. I thought I would find someone in Europe. So I wasn't even thinking of this new stranger that I've just met. But I really enjoyed our conversation. So I thought, well, when he sent the picture, I thought, wow, he's cute, he's smart, he has a beautiful heart, he's once in a while, he'll pop in my head. But when we started having the conversation of visiting in Venice, I thought, well, let's see. So when we met, actually, we just clicked, and that was our first date.
Yeah, and it was unfortunate circumstances too, because we were supposed to have the whole weekend together. So I had come over, but very shortly before they changed their cruise ship schedule, and so Mirriam asked if I could change my plans, but my plans were not flexible, and so we ended up having only one day in Venice after all the 6 months of waiting and everything else, we just had, hours instead of days, to meet up. So there was an element of, frustration and disappointment, but then, seeing each other and being able to spend the time, there's an opportunity of just kind of being left wanting more. We kept, in touch, and I was very much the pursuer because she was, working, had less flexibility and immigration wise, coming over to Canada at that time. So the next time, Switzerland was an opportunity when she had finished her contract. She was, back over in Europe looking for other jobs with connections that she had. Again, we made plans for a longer visit, and different circumstances changed. And again, we had only a short period of time for the second time when we met up. And so finally in June of 2019, so about a year later, we arranged to meet in Mombasa in Kenya, which is right around my 40th birthday. And then we had kind of a full week to spend together and get to know each other. And I remember I had this great moment as we were leaving, and I had to go catch my flight. Mirriam was on a bus back to Nairobi to go back to Zambia. And we'd been having people in the street help us, figure out which bus Mirriam should get on and everything. And I was kind of standing there and, alone and looking around, not knowing what was going on. And the taxi driver that I had was going to take me to the airport. "Don't worry, sir, your wife, she's going to be fine. She's going to be fine."
Yeah.
And I looked at him and I said, "She's not my wife." And he said, "Not your wife. She should be. She should be." And it was just, again, this moment of like, I have not really been thinking in these lanes at all. And, I had been a lifelong kind of bachelor. I've been in relationships and everything, but it had never been a priority of mine to, settle down and have a family or I was still interested in all of the travel, but it did get me thinking about what would that life be like?
Yeah. And also it was funny because while we were there in Mombasa at the resort, like everywhere we went, everybody was complimenting us, beautiful couple. Wow, you guys are so, like everybody was just so nice and complimenting us. Like, you guys look good together. And
so we made a plan for me to go visit in Zambia in November of 2019.
And did you meet her family?
And so that was another moment, I think, when, going over, we were wondering, now, is this even more opportunity? Because I ended up, spending, I think, 3.5 weeks as part of that trip over there. And again, at the beginning of the trip, it was just, the two of us, and Livingston's a very beautiful touristy spot. As Mirriam said, the Victoria Falls are there, and there's lots of animals and other things to do. But it was, I think maybe a week into it, I said, if I know the village is not far, like if you were interested, I wouldn't, I would be open to going and seeing. And Mirriam,
that's a whole new level of commitment.
And not knowing what Mirriam would say to that, but she was kind of thinking, okay, finally now that you've made the offer, like, yes, that would be good.
Yes, I had told my family that I had a friend coming to visit, but I didn't want to ask James to go visit my family because I didn't want him to feel pressured or to feel like I'm pressuring. But even to take him as a friend, would have been nice for my family. They would welcome him.
And it went okay, obviously.
Yes.
I mean, we're here anyway.
Yeah. No, it was a wonderful time because then we met also with some of Mirriam's family who were in the capital city in Lusaka as well. And I had this great memory of Mirriam's eldest brother, Willard, at the end of the meal, just saying like, thank you so much for coming. We can see you two together, and we can see, the love that's there. And so safe travels, and we hope to see you again. And so that was also kind of a great, continuation. And it was more at that point, as I was going to Zambia, I had started, sharing with, friends and family, like I'm in this relationship. It's hard to explain, what's going on and what our plans are. But, now it's gotten to the point where, we'll be thinking about going again. So we made a plan to meet in Johannesburg in March 2020.
Oh, well, all you have to say is that, and everyone goes, dun, 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 dun. Yeah, that didn't really work out, did it?
No, it didn't. There was some frantic, conversations in those days, as things were changing so quickly, like, should I move my flight up to get out before everything closes, only to find the next day, oh, I'm glad we didn't do that. Now I'm going to race across the New Brunswick border to get to Moncton, to where I can be with my parents during the lockdown. and those sorts of things. And that's where, we had some months to decide where are we going and how are we going to overcome the distance and global pandemic and other things. So I spent a lot of time, and it was nice at video calls, and my parents could, meet Mirriam that way, and we would chat. And so every night as April turned into May and June, I started being like, well, where is it possible for a Canadian and a Zambian to meet, and when? And I would be checking, and when are the flights coming back? And there was one country other than North Korea, which didn't allow you to travel there, but didn't recognize. But one other country, Tanzania in Africa, reopened in July of 2020. And KLM was flying there to Dar es Salaam from Canada, and Ethiopian Airlines was flying there from Zambia. So we kind of messaged, are we crazy doing this or what? But we booked the flights not knowing if they would be canceled. And I was working from the basement, as everybody was. Mm-hmm. But when the days came, the flights went, and we took our COVID test when we arrived, and spent a month in Zanzibar in July and August of 2020. When everybody, and no one other than like my family and Mirriam's family knew, but we didn't know, people didn't know that I was working from Zanzibar rather than Moncton.
Was it kind of a magical time because the world had basically stopped, and yet here you two were in this phenomenal place?
Oh yeah, it was not crowded. All the people were, working in the hospitality industry were so excited to have a bit of a reopening. Mm-hmm. It was, we were working from we were staying in nice places that were, bumping us up to the nice rooms because they were not being used. It felt, like it was very socially distanced. People were wearing masks still and other things. So it felt safe. There was always a worry about, what happens if, it's still early days of all this, but it didn't really cross our minds too much because we just had such a wonderful, reconnection.
The Canadian Love Map podcast, we do love to hear about engagement stories.
Well, we've just hit that right point because 1 week into being in Zanzibar, I didn't have anything prepared, but in the Stone Town, in the capital of Zanzibar, they had Tanzanite and jewelry shops. And so one day when
she's showing off her ring right now.
One day when Mirriam was out shopping, I went, and Freddie Mercury of Queen was born in Zanzibar in Stone Town. And so right beside his birthplace is a jewelry shop. And I went in and I picked out, what I thought she would like and the guy took it. He said, I have to go and get some paperwork. I'll be right back. And that would have been the moment to think, okay, I can run now. But none of those thoughts came to mind. So, but that day we had a plan to take a boat to go to this beautiful sandbar that's off the coast of Stone Town, about, a 20-minute sail or something away, called Nakupenda.
Nakupenda, that's Kiswahili. It means I love you, the love.
The I love you sandbar.
That's right.
Yes.
So we didn't make it because the sail ripped on our little sail on this small boat. And the guy promised us that in the morning when it would be calm, we could take a little of the Dow, like motorboats, and get to this, I love you sandbar. And I had the ring. And I was like, she's going to find it or I'm going to lose it. I better, this is a sign. Tomorrow morning when we go, I'll bring the ring. I said, maybe wear a white dress. I'll wear a white, it'll be nice for the pictures on the sandbar. And, so we went there. It was a beautiful day. And we had the little sandbar mostly to ourselves. I gave the phone to the tour guide. As I said, as we walk, I said, just you wait for the right moment. And then we walked kind of a little farther down the sandbar. And then I turned and got down on one knee and held out the ring and waited.
Uh-oh. Another drum roll. Okay, Mirriam, pick it up for us.
I was in shock.
Were you? So you were not in that space of perhaps suspecting that this was coming. This was out of left field.
No, I had no idea. The other day when the sail ripped off, I was just telling James when we were going, I was just so happy. I was just in a very good space. We were just so in love. And I remember holding his hand and just telling him that how happy I was and how great everything was going. And I was just so content. But I never expected or suspected that something like a ring was coming anytime soon. So I was in shock. I froze. I was just standing there staring at him, and he's like, I'm asking. I didn't know what to say or what to do.
I'm down here on my knees.
Yeah. And I don't think it was in real time. I don't think it was very long. But when you're there in that position, it feels like a little bit of time.
James thought I wasn't sure. That's what he thought. He still makes fun of me. I was just in shock.
Yeah.
I wanted to say yes right away. If I could say yes right away, I was going to say it. But I was just so in shock. I was just so surprised.
Well, I will fast forward now to say, looking at the book that you've written together, there's a just gorgeous picture of the backs of the two of you with the water that can only be described as that vacation turquoise.
It's the 3 days before the engagement that picture is taken. And so that's waters in Zanzibar, the Indian Ocean.
And yet on the back of the book,
spoiler alert,
there is a family shot and there's a beautiful baby in the picture with you. So you're living in Canada and you're a family now. Yeah. What is life like? And will the future for your family include a lot of travel?
We are still traveling. We continued with the family.
Yeah. Well, and we've been back to Zambia a number of times with those. So we have 2 boys now, 3.5 and 2. So it's life is busy. It's a different kind of love than the romantic escapades of jolting around the world and not wondering, where the little guys are and making sure you can lie in bed all day if you'd like to and sleep how much you want rather than how much the toddlers decide you should.
And are the toddlers' passports full of stamps already?
Yeah, they've been to Qatar for the World Cup and they've been to Mexico for the solar eclipse.
And London. London to the soccer match.
They've been to games there, and out to see family in Calgary. And
I'm very curious about what you hope people will get from your book. And by the way, it's called The Illogical Adventure. Great name.
Yeah, the quote comes from a Robert Louis Stevenson passage. And he said, falling in love is the one illogical adventure. The one, I think one thing that we might think of as superstitious in this trite and reasonable world, or supernatural, the one thing of supernatural in this reasonable world.
What do you love most about each other? James, I'm going to make you go first.
Okay. The brave, strong, courageous, person who came to Canada not knowing anyone, not, leaving for love, like just watching her kind of go through that process and be a mom here, to going through 2 pregnancies and everything. The idea of here watching her, parent our young boys. I'm always struck by her bravery, her strength, her courage, her faith. It's a pleasure to, be able to, for someone, who never really kind of was mostly solo and living on my own for so long over the last sort of 5-year wedding anniversary coming up. I think that's the thing I love the most about being in this relationship, for this 5 years and however long we last on Earth.
Oh, that's good last phrase there, James. Yeah. You just pulled that one out of the fire. On Earth.
Yes, yeah, that's right. Till death do us part. That's what I meant to say.
Mirriam.
I just, there's so many things I love about James, but mostly it's his beautiful heart. He has a beautiful heart and beautiful mind. So smart in so many things. And just the way he is very humble and very down to earth, and very simple person. And how he loves to help other people. I see beauty in that. And just the way he is as a family man, the way he loves me and he helps me and when I really need him. And also how he just loves our kids and our family and how he's a good son to his parents. Mm-hmm. And just in general, he's just a kind man and he has a good heart. Despite that he's just harmless and gorgeous.
I'm not allowed to grow the beard anymore.
I
So
can see the beard is a thing of the
It's a thing of
past.
the
So
past,
fast,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, I love the fact that the illogical adventure phrase is from Treasure Island, and you seem to have found the treasure in each other. And I really appreciate you sharing your story today.
no, thank you.
Thank you.
It's our pleasure.
Thanks so much for listening. If you have loved this episode, then why not subscribe, rate, and review Charm's Canadian Love Map? Do you have a love story that you're dying to share, yours or someone else's? Reach out to us at Canadian Love Map on Instagram or Facebook. We'd love to hear your story.